faculty award is the Loyd Roberts Prize, which is established by friends and family of Mr. Loyd Roberts. It is awarded annually to a faculty member who's made significant contributions to the administration of justice. This year's award goes to Professor Carl Esbeck, who will be introduced by Rick Temple from the class of 1985.
Thank you, Dean. There's so many distinguished individuals and judges in the audience. I feel like I should start by saying, may it please the court. I'm here to introduce Professor Esbeck for this award, and I want to tell you that I researched a little bit about the award, and the word that I kept seeing come up was service, as you mentioned. And if you look in your program, you can read about all of the amazing things that Professor Esbeck has done, both nationally with our federal government and locally, statewide and also locally. But I want to use this chance partly because it gives me a personal opportunity to thank him for the service that he displayed that benefited my life and how that has so richly blessed my life. I owe a lot to Professor Carl Esbeck. I told him tonight when we were sitting together, I said, you taught me an awful lot, and I truly thank you for that. So this opportunity gives me the opportunity, this chance gives me the opportunity to tell some of you things that he has done for so many students now for 29 years, 30 years, something like that, 32 years. I'm just one, but this gives me the chance to share. I first met Carl Esbeck in August of 1982. Bill, I was the year after you, so I wasn't his initial year, I was his second year. First class, first day, Professor Carl Esbeck, Tate Hall, civil procedure. If you've ever had Professor Esbeck, you know that he, well, at least he did at that time, he calls on students in alphabetical order. So when your time comes up, you know ahead of time, which teaches you should be prepared. There's no excuse for not being prepared to be called on. But I can tell you I was so nervous the first time that I was to be called on that I could feel my heart in my face. Every beat I could feel in my face. And I still haven't forgotten that. And it's been, let's see, 32 years, something like that. But I did survive, and I learned a great deal. And I ended up taking all 4 classes that Professor Esbeck taught at that time. Civil Procedure 1, Civil Procedure 2, Constitutional Law, and Civil Rights. In addition to those class experiences, while I was still in law school, I had the chance to work with Professor Esbeck outside of class on various projects. The first was, he was the faculty advisor for the Christian Legal Society group at the law school, and I was a member of that group. We met each week, and I ended up being a student leader of that group in my second and third year. We met weekly, we encouraged one another. I was so encouraged by everything he taught me and during that time. We had group social functions at his home. We did a lot of things to get to know one another, but he was always the professor, and I was the student. He also served as the faculty advisor to my law review note and comment, which was published thanks to his great input. He introduced me to a personal friend of his in New Mexico who helped me obtain an internship. I couldn't quite figure out what I was going to do between graduating from law school and the bar exam because I thought from the middle of May until the end of July was far too long to study for the bar exam. I just didn't think I would be very productive at that. So he introduced me to to a friend of his in New Mexico, and I obtained an internship in Washington, D.C. between my period of time graduating from law school here in 1985 and when I came back to start the bar review class, the 2-week, I think it was at that time, 2-week bar review class. I worked for Senator Domenici on the Hill, and that was a tremendous experience, but I owe that experience to Professor Esbeck. He convinced me of the benefit of seeking a clerkship, either federal or state, and he assisted me in finding different opportunities so that I was privileged to be able to serve both as a Missouri Court of Appeals clerk and also as a federal district court judge clerk to a federal judge, following behind one of our awardees here, Mr. Owens, and his friend. Through his service to me as a student, I learned to study the world issues, to develop a view. He would say to me, do you have a view on this? Do you have a view on this? No, I really don't. I never thought of it. He said, you need to have a view. You need to have a view. He encouraged all of us as students to look at the world issues and to decide what we thought was important and which side of issues we were on, and then to get involved and to use that knowledge to support your view and to be involved to make a difference. He also encouraged me many times, and I will never forget this from my first semester. Those of you who, I guess almost everyone in this room who's been in law school, when you get to first semester finals, it's a little bit of pressure. And he always said to us, your worth as an individual is not determined by how you do on your law school finals. That has never left me. And I want to tell you, I really appreciate that. Last week I had a court and bonk argument before the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. 12 judges. You know how it can be. When I left, those words kept coming in my mind. Your worth is not determined by how you do on a law school class or how you do on an oral argument. I will never forget those words, and I appreciate you teaching those to me. Following law school, I continued to have the opportunity to be involved with Professor Carl Esbeck. After my clerkships, I went to a law firm that represented school districts. And being the one who just left a federal clerkship, any case that involved federal court, they wanted me to work on. Well, we had constitutional issues come up by representing public schools, and we had religious liberty issues come up by representing public schools. First case that we had that came up, I said to the partners, I was a new associate, I said, I have just the person we need to assist us on this case. And fortunately, as Bill said, the older guys listened to the young guy's idea, and we brought in Professor Carl Esbeck. He assisted us. I was late 20s, and I was working with one of my professors on a brief to the U.S. Supreme Court. That was really, really inspirational to me. The hardest part was being able to call him Carl as a colleague, as opposed to calling him Professor Esbeck. Then Judge Clark, if you're from the Springfield area, you know Judge Russell Clark. He appointed me. I wanted to ask him, but I don't have the opportunity now. Why did you pick me? But he appointed me to represent 8 indigent federal state prisoners over a conditions of confinement case in a county in south of Missouri. I remember receiving the letter and I thought, what am I going to do? Once again, I called Professor Esbeck. He assisted me in the case, and not only did we get a new jail built in that county, but we had all of our attorney's fees paid. And I later heard that Judge Clark bragged about the result of that case to several other people because he appreciated the work that was done. Now, I highlight these things to say these are just my personal experiences. And in 32 or 33 years, I'm just one person. Can you imagine how many students have been affected by the service of Professor Carl Esbeck? That is just on a personal note. Then if you read the program, you can see that he has worked extensively with Washington, D.C., the Charitable Choice, is that what they call Charitable Choice Act? The Homeschool Act here in Missouri, licensing of daycares here in Missouri. So many things that the legislation was either drafted by him or he assisted a group to draft that. I've been told by others that he's considered one of the top 5 experts in church-state law in the entire United States. In summary, Carl Esbeck's life can be summarized by the words attributable to this award, service. So I'm honored to have been his student, I'm honored to have been his colleague, and most importantly, I'm honored to call you a friend. I introduce to you Professor Carl Esbeck.
we're gonna waive my rebuttal times.
Okay, great.